Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwarube is today expected to address the Heritage and Literacy Month celebrations in Johannesburg. This is all under the theme, Language, Our Heritage Family. It comes at a time when, of course, there's a public outcry around the erosion of languages in this country. Our reporter, Ofentse Setimo, is watching those developments, and he joins us now live. And language, of course, Ofentse, is seen as a custodian of culture and heritage in many ways, and that makes that gathering incredibly important.
Absolutely, and a good morning to you, Ayanda, and to your viewers. Well, you can remember, I think last year there was a report that was actually released, which actually exposed how our grade 4 learners are actually not able to read for understanding. So we understand that, over the 30 years that we've celebrated Heritage Day, there has been, what one might actually label as, shortfalls in terms of attending to certain nitty-gritties and ensuring that, kids are passionate about reading. As you rightfully mentioned that, the preservation of language is actually also very important, but when kids are actually able to read for understanding in all the languages, their mother tongue and also in English, it actually makes a big difference. But I'm actually joined now by some of the exhibitors here as we are coming to you from the Saibono Center in Newtown, where, as you rightfully mentioned, we are celebrating the Heritage and Literature Month. I am joined now by one of the exhibitors here just to elaborate a bit further on the importance of this particular day. Kawe, thank you so much for your time. Can you tell us, why do you believe it's important for us to actually celebrate heritage and literature in the country?
No, thank you very much, Bra Ofentse. I think a good place to start is the title of this event, right? It's titled Language, Our Heritage, or if we speak of it in Xhosa, Language, it's ulwimi ilifa lethu, right? Language, our inheritance, right? And we understand that the cultures we have, the languages that we have, are millennia's worth of lived experiences, millennia's worth of thought, millennia's worth of ways of being. So it's so important for us to not lose those reserves that, one, are knowledge reserves and valuable in themselves, but two, are knowledge reserves and ways of being that are particular to us as a people and give context to our existence as a people. So I think it's so important to celebrate and to uphold and to push forward, the agenda of our own cultures, and it needs us to resist, the work of cultural imperialism from colonialism, and even now that continues, in some different ways. I think on the way of languages, it's quite important that our children learn how to read in their home languages, one, for the celebration and promotion of their languages, but two, because, educationalists and researchers as you learn far better to read in your home language. A program that teaches you to read primarily in your home language can produce functionally literate readers in 3 years versus the 5 years required for a second language. It therefore makes it so important that we engage in materials like these, that it's used in our schools, and that parents as well at home are driving the agenda of, one, who we are, but two, helping children learn how to read in their own home languages.
Absolutely. And we heard that, African culture has over time been depleted because, our heritage has not been written down. It's actually a verbal thing. So it's actually important to write things down so that we can remember how practices were actually done. Your reaction to that?
No, I think 100%. So one, I agree with you to say it is important that we write things down such that it's easily translatable. But on the other end, I think there's no need to reject the oral traditions as well. I think provided we continue the oral traditions and we take responsibility to tell the stories further, I think what I enjoy about an oral tradition is it's not a single author. Utata would have heard a folk tale from his dad. He'll put his own spin on it when he tells it to me. I'll learn it, I'll put my own spin on it when I tell it to my child. So I think there's beauty in the oral tradition as well.
Absolutely. Can you just take us through some of the books? I understand that you guys are actually going digital, and because of the 4IR and everything, people are always on their phones, on their gadgets, hardly on the hard copy. Even newspapers are hardly read because people are actually on their phones. Can you just take us through some of the books that you have in your portfolio there?
Absolutely, glad to. I think first let me speak to some of our collaborators. So you'll see there's a lot of physical books on the table. These are some of the partners and stakeholders we're working with to organize this event together with the DB and other stakeholders, and there we have iTutor making maths and science dictionaries from grade 4 all the way up to matric. Here we have children's books, in all of the 11 African home languages from Jakana, and the same here from Zenit's Foundation. And what's nice about these ones is they are graded, so it's according to readers for grade 1, readers for grade 2. But from myself and from our organization, we're from Utaka, a company, a startup called Utaka, and we build digital materials. I think, as you're saying, we want you to be able to access books anywhere at any time. We want to reduce the kinds of cost barriers of printing costs for books such that you're able to just access it digitally. Secondly, though, we want to make books fun and engaging. So you'll see that the book here that we're looking at, Kataka, is what we call a video book, right? Which is an integration of an audio book together with the illustrated form of a book. So that if you're a child and you're watching a story, you can see the words on the screen and you can hear someone reading them to you. So that we can also help children learn how to read while making it a fun and engaging way. So at Taka, we build a digital library of books, children's books in particular, in all 11 official South African languages, and in video book format.
And absolutely, I think this initiative will actually go a long way in ensuring that we preserve our own African languages. As you know, most of our kids are going to Model C schools, they're talking English all the time, so if they have the books in their own languages, they can appreciate their own mother tongue.
100%, my brother. I think we can't take for granted that languages are self-sustaining. They aren't, they're not a spirit, they rely on us as the speakers, as the people, And right now, because of the way our world is set up in terms of education, the political, the economic, so many of our languages are being lost because to gain access to certain places and to the only people you see in certain places are people speaking the language of English. So it's so important we do the work of growing our own languages, ensuring our children are able to speak our languages and that they know that our languages are not inferior, they are not a kind of second-hand, if you will, way of being. They are as valid and as belonging, in the world as the English, and to your specific self as an African, they are able to give you a lot of context and understanding of who you are, which helps your confidence in the way you move through the world. So it's so important that we fight for our languages, and as I said, they're far more than just a language. It's a knowledge bank, it's spirit, it's imagination, it's history. So much is held in those languages. So we need to actively do the work to resist what has been the dwindling of our languages, firstly from colonial and apartheid era policies, and also now, in the democratic dispensation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was quite a mouthful. Well, as you can hear, that's Kawe Bula from Taka, who's also one of the exhibitors here at Saibono in Newtown, actually saying that, previously our languages were actually seen as inferior, and also our kids were being sent to your Model C schools where communication is only in English. He's saying that, with literature written in the kids' mother tongue, this can actually go a long way to ensure that our own African languages are also being preserved. Ayanda?
Absolutely. What a fascinating discussion that was. Ofentse Setimo, thanks very much indeed for bringing that to us. Ofentse reporting live there from Johannesburg. In fact, it reminded me of a Kenyan writer by the name of Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who actually advocated for other African writers to write in their own indigenous languages because he reckoned that that's the only way we can make sure that knowledge does not escape isiZulu, for example, or Sesotho, and is preserved in other dialects. So very important indeed as we take stock of this heritage